Mara Mukwanda. In accordance with government advice, millions of people globally have been wearing face masks and face coverings as a preventative measure against COVID 19. Although this does contribute to slow down the spread of the virus, the exponential use of disposable masks is having a profound effect on the environment that seems to have been overlooked. What can we do about it? Let's listen to what environmentalist Yoonus Mitha has to say. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Yunus, thank you for joining me once again.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and shukran and jazakallah khair for the opportunity once again.
Alhamdulillah. Now, people have been wearing face masks since 2020 when the coronavirus started, yet we don't know how they have impacted on the environment. Please enlighten us.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of those things that cannot be spoken about in isolation. Just
Mhm.
is face masks. Is that a environmental hazard? It obviously is, but it's more about disposing of these masks in a responsible way. Whether
Mhm.
we agree or we disagree about the use of a face mask, that's not relevant in this discussion. What actually is it? Okay, so now we faced with this dilemma, we faced with this problem, and not with our permission, but yeah, the whole world. This has been probably one of the biggest impacts or interventions in destructive environmental uh, inputs that has come about in of late, and we know about it. So let's just take this in a very simple, logical approach, and speak about it from that perspective, right?
Mhm.
Okay, first, yes, we need to wear the masks, and yes, we do know that billions and billions of these masks are being produced. And here we're speaking specifically about, uh, you know, the, the, uh, the medical masks, or if you want to call it that, um, that are being produced. Now, we need to separate issues. On the one hand, PPE equipment used in hospitals and mainly used in hospitals, there is and has been a system in place of disposing of these over the years. Debatable and questionable as to exactly what, where, and how they do get disposed of, uh, is a topic for a whole other discussion. Medical waste per se, which would include not just but even medication, drugs, expired drugs and medication, and a whole range of other things. So that maybe we should speak about that on another time. But I believe
Mhm.
today's topic is okay, specifically medical masks, and how do we, the general public, uh, handle this and minimize the destruction of this uh, on our environment and on our planet. Am I correct?
Mhm. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
correct. And very little guidance has been given on how to dispose of or recycle face masks. How can they or should be disposed of?
Okay. Right. So we're speaking about the mask, the the light blue and the black ones that are
Yes.
making it around. And some people are even wearing the the N19 medical mask and so forth. So okay, all of that. Let's put all of that into this particular basket right now,
Mhm.
and separate that from the cloth masks, right?
Mhm.
uh, the ones that are being manufactured. And here's the other thing, they say every cloud has a silver lining. So yeah, there's been opportunity for a number of people who have started manufacturing this, and uh, but also job creation on a significant level has happened. Uh, all those things in place, right?
Mhm.
Because of the mask manufacturer. Okay, but let's separate the two types of masks. Right. So you have your, and So you have your cloth masks, which
Mm-hmm.
let's just keep that out because it's cloth masks per se are things that are meant to be washed and reused anyway, right?
Yes.
So it's less invasive than the disposable mask. So the disposable mask is what we're speaking about today. And even with the cloth mask as well, there's this, you know, there are, and people need to be aware of it. Some people say that the disposable masks may even contain, both of them have the effect of obviously reducing a percentage of our oxygen intake and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be aware of that. And also, uh, but again, a discussion for another time. But this particular one, the disposable mask, is made from a fabric or a material which is similar to that which is made from tea bags. You know, it's a form of a filter type material that's being used. The interesting thing that, and what we really need to know about that is that it takes forever. It's not biodegradable, and that is our problem. Is that it's going to make its way into the environment somehow or the other on landfill sites, in the ground somewhere, in the oceans, and we'll speak a little bit about that in a moment. But it's
Mm-hmm.
going to land up wherever it lands up, and it's really never gonna. It's gonna biodegrade, but it takes something like 40 plus years for that to break down. So that is a major concern to begin with. It's the length of time it takes to break down in the environment. An immediate option and solution for that is to burn it. Okay, but again, when we burn these things en masse, we then introduce another form of pollution into our air, right? But by and large, at home, small scale, if you're doing this at home, by far the easiest thing to do would be if you could just burn it in your space and in your environment and get rid of it in that way, you know, which is what most medical type of waste is being, just how most medical waste is being done anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
that immediately, right? So if you can discard it, but do not put it into you don't introduce it into the overall waste management system. Do not let it even be go down, for that matter, your sewer system as well. Do not let it make its way in any form, shape, or uh, out into the environment where birds and other animals, or especially in the oceans, these things have known they are killing our animals in the process as well. The rubber band that's around the face mask, even if you are going to dispose it in your dustbins and you know for collection, at least take the time to cut the elastics off,
Mm-hmm.
because those things, when that rubber band is attached to the mask, then you know it can, and it has been known to already start kind of trapping, or it becomes trapped onto some animal or some situation which we don't want either. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, start off by cutting those rubber bands off the mask and then dispose it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But preferably do not send it into your waste management system, into where it's going to land up on a landfill site. Right? Take that material, burn it if you can. Uh, I'd be loath to say bury it into the ground because it's not biodegradable anyway. But at least it's out of the way. It's not going to interfere with our wildlife or bird life, with our fish life, and so forth as well. In the chance that it might get into those places. But that material there takes forever and we should pay attention to what I'm saying now about the mask and transfer that information to our use of tea bags as well, right? We
Mm-hmm.
need to appreciate and understand that the material that's being used, and this is where, okay, I don't know if we're going to be able to ever do what we did in the form of things like beating plastic. No, we're never going to beat plastic pollution, but plastic pollution was a huge thing. And in the same way as we need to be mindful mindful of the fact that plastic, so we can literally add the masks into the plastic pollution scenario and into the plastic pollution debate. And yeah, and you get an idea of what the scope of and the magnitude of this problem really is.
Mm-hmm.
But System Miriam.
All right. Now, we know that animals are mostly affected, especially marine life, but how are we affected? How are humans affected? But hold that thought and let us take a quick break and we will continue thereafter, inshallah.
Every 60 seconds, a silent pandemic claims the life of a child. Unsafe water is having a devastating global impact on health and livelihoods. Islamic Relief is at the forefront, providing clean and safe water to the world. Our tailored approach to sustainable water solutions enable families not just to survive, but to thrive, ensuring they stay healthy and safe. Give water, give life with Islamic Relief.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world, where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain development company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
Reliable access to clean water could save thousands of lives each day. With proper sanitation and easy access to fresh, clean water, communities can flourish. Our Thirst Relief Appeal provides clean water to communities in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East by building deep wells and providing sustainable water and hygiene solutions. A monthly donation of as little as 700 Rand could build a well for a community in need. That's only 23 Rand a day. Donate today. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 11 00 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Mukwanda, and we are unpacking the devastating impact that face masks and PPEs have on the environment and how we can help minimize the pollution brought on by COVID-19 with environmentalist Yoonus Mitha. Yoonus, before the break, I asked about how humans are affected by the pollution caused by the PPE and face masks. We know that animals are mostly affected, especially marine life. And how does that affect us as human beings?
Okay, so as humans, we this is one anomaly we have is that humans are obsessed with treating symptoms rather than the root causes, and so this is just another symptom of a situation, and now we've got to treat the symptom of how do we dispose of these masks, and we're asking questions of how does it affect humans, and we're not going to go into obviously because the question we're asking is that all right, regardless of the mask and what it does or what it doesn't do, it's there. And how do we deal with the fact that it has been introduced into our society, into our world, into our community? How does it affect people? Now, immediately, the disposing of the mask or if, without being allowed to speak about what the mask itself does, we're not speaking about that. We're not allowed to. But what we were speaking about is, okay, so how do we get rid of these masks from our space, from our environment? And what effect does this directly have on humans? Okay, with humans, it's less likely that it's going to affect us like it does our animals. It's probably even going to be like plastic, plastic pollution, packaging, and everything. we don't see that as affecting us very directly. We don't even know that it affects us directly. It's only when it now has to make its way into being disposed that and makes its way to landfill sites and makes its way into the ground, makes its way into our oceans. So, and then we see that, oh no, this affects the animals. It doesn't affect us.
Yeah.
So because I'm going to be smart enough not to get trapped, that mask to close my beak in any way so that I can't eat anymore, or that I'm going to swallow the mask. Will I swallow the mask? No, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not, but animals may not be as fortunate and as lucky. So that is why, beached whales, it's horrendous that already we've seen tons of plastic coming out of the stomachs of beached whales. And obviously, what do you think we're finding in between that as well? Our masks on the oceans. The sea knows what's good and what's bad, and it discards it and it washes it up back to the shore. So what are we finding? Masks again. But to answer your question, I cannot give you an answer to say that a mask is going to affect humans. So so am I really saying that? Okay, so the mask does not the wearing of the mask, but the disposing of the mask.
Yes.
The disposing of the mask may not seemingly have any impact on us, but we need to be mindful. We're supposed to be the intelligent species. We need to be mindful of the environment and the others that are. So sorry, in terms of not having a melodramatic answer for how it affects humans, I don't. There is no answer to that particular question. But yes, did you get my point? Okay.
Yes, I do. I want to share this with you that I came across in an article. It says here, the International Union for Conservation of Nature found that there is at least 8 million tons of plastic added to oceans every year, which makes up 80% of marine debris. This ends up impacting humans more than we could have imagined, with fish and seabirds mistaking this debris for food, and this plastic enters the food chain. And we eat the fish, we love the seafood, and it becomes an ongoing cycle.
Absolutely. So therein lies the whole discussion we're having today. Just add billions of PPE masks to that equation now, right? And that compounds the problem a billion times. So this is really what it is, and we really should see it, because it's like one-use plastic, and it's pretty much exactly that. It's what's our attitude towards plastic pollution, and to wake up and understand that we've just contributed, because it's not just the mask, the whole epidemic. There's what about like we said, we seem to think that we hope that the needles and the drugs and the medication, but we've got that problem at home as well. How do you dispose of unused medication and drugs in your home? And everybody's got loads of them, right? How do you dispose of it? Have you given some thought to how this gets disposed? In the same way, we need to think about the masks as well. We need to dispose of that in a responsible way, and that is really what we need to. But because the impact on the environment is huge, because we haven't even spoken about the manufacture of those masks. How many trees had to be cut down for that purposes? How much of energy had to go into that? Our carbon footprint, how much did we increase that? How does it impact on climate change? So these are all very loaded and very, very direct. But it's good that we're speaking about it, Sister Mariam, because it's at the end of the day, it's only when you speak about it, like you're doing right now, is you're creating an awareness at the very least, right? Make people conscious of the situation. And hopefully, inshallah, it is through this consciousness and this awareness that something or the other, and we need to understand one simple thing. Don't ever think that I as an individual will not be able to make a difference in this whole thing. Start with yourself. Begin there. And your immediate family and the people around you. And hopefully the ripple effect, the awareness grows, the consciousness grows. And inshallah, we'll be able to protect our planet somewhere or the other.
Now, quickly, what can governments do to help improve the disposing of face masks and PPE and other medical waste?
To say I'm totally unqualified to even tell or make a suggestion in this regard is an understatement. It's just sorry that a question which absolutely. I've got ideas. I've got or suggestions. My first one would be just stop wearing the mask. But I'm not supposed to say that. I'm not going to say that. Stop producing the masks and that is it. Or for that matter, not this particular mask, not the disposable mask. Ask people around you, right? Okay, so the ones that are using these disposable masks, because there was a time when they even said you can wash them and use them again. I think we're looking for a needle in a haystack if we actually did find those people who do wash the mask and wear them again. So it's one. It's a big problem. It's even for government. Let me tell you, they might have whatever intentions and their approaches might be somewhat. They've got budgets for it and whatever, but the whole distribution chain, everybody down the line, it's an opportunistic moment for many who are basically doing their own thing and. Because these masks, for all intents and purposes, and for all that we know, these masks were brought in and were supposed to be distributed free of charge to the country, to people in South Africa. I can't speak for the rest of the world. But no one can speak for South Africa. But yes, I do know that these things were supposed to have been given out free of charge to all and sundry. And it came in, but they've been sold in every shop that you walk into. You have to buy a mask. Prices vary from 2 rand to 5 rand to whatever the case may be. But these are not things that were supposed to be happening. So at the same time, if we assume or accept that the mask does in fact help, with regard to preventing the spread of the virus, then the people who really need it, the poorest of the poor. I'm not supposed to be buying these things. They were supposed to be these things. You're supposed to have teams going out and distributing it to the poor in the townships, in wherever. You with me? So the whole thing about the management of the whole process is flawed, and not because those up there want it that way, but this is just the way it is. It's what it is, and we cannot. I mean. I don't have any brilliant ideas on how to do it any differently or any better, other than saying, okay, listen, you know what? There must be a point at which we're all going to wake up and realize for ourselves how best to use the mask, And that is going to be left up onto the individuals, and we can only make dua that, sanity will prevail.
Indeed. I mean, I think maybe government needs to impose a fine for people who just dispose of face masks, PPE, medical waste, any which way that they please. Because when people see that they have to pay a fine for doing something, that's when they realize that no, okay, perhaps we need to stop. So if there could be a fine in place, that could be another way.
It could be, but it's always enforcement of any such law that always becomes flat, because the resources are not there to police it any effectively. And the only effective form of preventing and policing it and managing any of these systems is to educate people around us. I mean, now take littering. Littering, from the time you were at school. That was like one big issue, Okay,
Yes.
let's pick up papers, was almost a form of punishment, if anything else. And that was also where we went wrong. Because, okay, so you were naughty and, all right, so now you're going to go and pick up papers. Okay, so it was always seen as a form of punishment. Yet, it was never taught to our children that act, that simple act of picking up papers and cleaning up. I mean, I think it's a Japanese or one of the schools where the first few years of their schooling is based on they clean their own classrooms, they clean their own spaces and environments and so forth. They are taught this as an act of education, as an act of necessity, as an act of love, you know, and we've got a totally different attitude to it. And unless we start changing, and you can only begin with the man in the mirror, you know, but we can start with our children. We can start teaching them these things and saying, hey, hold on, next time you see somebody drop a piece of paper or drop a piece of plastic or drop a piece of whatever it is, it's litter. What we're speaking about is litter on a large scale, right? On a ridiculously large scale. So the next time, but if each of us sees that and we get offended by it and we do something about it, you know, then change might be, we might see a certain change being brought about. But yeah, to say pass a law and stop these guys, all you're doing there as well, okay, so now you give the authorities that have been given this another opportunity to again foster corruption of another level. So this police officer will come up to you, hey, you just disposed your mask off in an irresponsible way, you just threw it out, I'm going to give you a fine. But instead of giving you a fine, it's okay, man. You know, I'll just take $20 or $50 from you. And you see the problem.
Yeah.
So it's really, this cuts across societal attitudes to so many things, you know. So it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy solution. And what we need to start with, okay, it's here. You know, the beast is among us. So we got to deal with it. We cannot just leave it there, you know, like a mosquito in your room at night. And it's there. You can't wish it away. And you're going to have to somehow do something about getting rid of it. So these are the issues that but unless we start speaking and having our talk shows revolving around behavioral issues and behavioral attitudes and behavioral changes, you know, then you'll find that a whole range of things kind of hopefully may fall into place. And maybe for a generation or two away from us, yes, but we need to start with that. So it's an education system at the base and at the core is the educational system, not one that churns out doctors and lawyers and accountants, because that's all it does. It's this little factory, you know, creating some things. But no, it must be meaningful, relevant, real education. And Islam, as a religion, has all those teachings in place. It teaches us especially about hygiene, you know, So where's our contribution? Why aren't we not insisting that certain things be introduced in the school syllabus, which we learn in madrasa, for instance? You know.
Yes, definitely. I think we should.
We should, don't you think so?
All right. We can go on and talk about the environment and how it.
When I was asked to come and speak about it, I said, listen, you know, there's two things. One, and I understand what's happening, and I know media has got a responsibility of a different sort at this point in time, and there are certain things we can't speak about, and we should, you know. So I'm not, but I'm saying, you know, I've spoken about the subjects on a few platforms, but you know, people just seem to think that, okay, masks, wearing of masks, and they're only focusing on the disposal of it or the pollution potential of these masks, and think that this might be a relevant topic to speak about. It is, but it is it's a microcosm of a bigger problem that we need to be discussing. This is an ant compared to the elephant that is in the room right now.
Yes.
So, but shukr alhamdulillah, and thank you for raising it as a subject, and hopefully people, for those who understand, they say there are two words in the Quran which are repeated very often. The one is so there'll be a whole ayah, and at the end of the ayah it ends off with la ya'lamun. What la ya'lamun means for those who understand.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the ayah is ended off with la ta'lamun, which for those who have knowledge. So there's great emphasis on these two things, knowledge and understanding, which is in the Quran. So there's this huge merit in us needing to appreciate both those attributes of knowledge and understanding. And this is where our educational system lacks and fails to address this. And we as general society and so forth, Allah must guide us, keep us among those whom He favors, and especially guide us with this knowledge and understanding, inshallah.
Jazakallah so much for your time and for the information that you have shared with us and unpacking the devastating impact that face masks have on the environment. I'm sure we have gathered a little bit more knowledge. Shukran and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Environmentalist Yoonus Mitha taking us through the impact that face masks and PPEs have on the environment and how we can help minimize the pollution brought on by COVID-19. It is 12:48. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. We will be right back.